Hey everybody, it's Rob. We're back. We're doing another Proving Grounds practice machine. This time we're doing a machine called Symbolic. It is a Windows machine and is rated as intermediate. And this machine was a challenge. I encountered multiple issues that required me to basically stop and do some research and try and figure out the way. And then I had this SSH key issue that I wanted to smack myself in the head when I figured it out, but it's amazing that if you have a stray, either carriage return line feed or a space in the private key, it will just not work. And I probably spent an hour messing around just trying to get one of the keys to work. So without further ado, you can see I am on Offsec's VPN and I do have Symbolic spun up, and here's the IP address. So we ran an mmap scan, service version detection, T4, aggressive on all ports, and really only two things came back. Again, unusual, SSH in Windows. You don't see that too often. This time it's Open SSH. The last time we did a video, I think it was Bitvice. And then we have an Apache server running on 80, and it looks like another one of these web page to PDF websites. So we don't really have much choice here. The first thing I did was visited the website. Now, if you go to the website, one thing to note, it says PDF web page to PDF converter by Pyload. This could be a username, so just take note of that, because we're going to come across some other items when we do our enumeration, and the only missing part will be the username, and eventually you'll figure out that that is a username. So make note of Pyload. And, I tried putting some URLs in here, and this website didn't really function that well, and it was really slow. And it did create the PDFs, but they were kind of slow. And I tried to break it, doing things like putting a localhost in there and everything. And I wasn't getting anything back that would, give me any clue to how I could take advantage of this. I even went to this WK HTML to PDF, look for exploits. There's a couple out there. I tried a couple. I couldn't get any of them to work. I wasn't even sure what, if this was what version this was, or if they were even applicable to this software. So what I did was, anytime I come across a website and I'm kind of stuck, I mean, at the very least, the first thing you should do is some go busting, and there was a lot that came back. I used the sec lists, list discovery, web content, RAF medium directories. Sec lists is not installed by default on Kali, so you can install sec lists by doing sudo apt install sec lists, and it will put all of those word lists on your Kali instance for you. Now, I went to all of these, and a lot of them are repeats, just with different, lowercase, uppercase. Where we really want to go, and where I struck pay dirt, and I didn't even really have to do any exploitation of anything, because there's just some data that leaks. I don't know if somebody set it up that way or what, but if you go to the PDFs website, you can see that there's some PDFs here. So I clicked on the first one, and it just is a 404 not found. If you click on the second one, error response 404, file not found, nothing matches the given URI. So I wasn't holding out much hope. And then I clicked on the last one, and there's a private key there. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this private key. We're going to open a terminal. We're going to do nano IDRSA. We're going to paste that key in there. All right, Control O, Control X, and then what we're going to do is we have to make that key read only, otherwise we're going to get a key error. So we'll do chmod 400 IDRSA. Now, this is where I had this key, and I had initially not thought of that Pyload as a username, and I didn't really know what to do. So then finally I went back and looked over everything, and again said, hey, let me try that as the username. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try an SSH in using the identity file with Pyload. Make sure I got the right IP address. I do. ID RSA. And cross our fingers and let's go. We're going to say yes. And we have a shell. So that's great. We're in pretty good shape so far. This is where everything went south for me. And I was so happy that I got the initial foothold fairly quickly. The rest of this took forever. And multiple days and coming back to it. And it was a nightmare. I had to do some things that I had never done before, like searched directly in GitHub rather than using Google. But we'll get to that. So the first thing we'll do is we'll do a dir. We'll go into the desktop, do a dir. There's the local.txt, so we'll type local.txt. There's the user flag. Now here I did all kinds of poking around in enumeration. I ran WinPs. I did a bunch of stuff. Really, where you want to be on this machine is you want to go back to the root directory. And if you do a dir, there's this backup folder that looked suspicious to me. So if you go into that backup folder and you do a dir, there's a backup.ps1. And if you look at the logs, if you go into logs and we do a dir, it looks like the logs are running like every minute or something like that. I don't know, but it's definitely running on some kind of regular schedule. So what we're going to do is we're going to back out of the logs, do a dir. We're going to type backup ps1 and see what it looks like. So it looks like log equals the XAMPP htdocs logs request log. Backup equals backup logs. So obviously it's putting the backup of the logs in this backup folder, which is right here. And it's actually looking for the logs in this folder. So it looks like it's copying the backup, adding a date stamp, and then sleeping for 60 seconds. So it looks like it is running every minute. Now, this machine's called Symbolic, right? So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I could take advantage of this. The only thing I can figure is they put SSH on this machine for a reason. So we have the private key of Pyload. I'm guessing, and I was guessing, that the administrator had a private key. So the thought was you could potentially create a symbolic link of the administrator's private key in that directory that's being backed up, right? Because if you look, it just says, it looks like it will back up everything in that directory, even though, right here. So copy, grabbing backup, start sleep, grab log, and back it up. So if we make a symbolic link to the administrator's private key, that should back that up, right? Now, here's the problem. We do not have any kind of elevated privileges on this. So I didn't really know how to do that. I tried make link. That obviously is not going to work because you're trying to copy something from the administrator directory, right? And then I even tried this, and I'm just going to put this here to show you what I tried. And we can even, you know, I could run through it. It's not going to work because we're not in a PowerShell shell right now, but you can see what I'm doing here, right? Doing PowerShell, new item type, symbolic link path. We're trying to make a symbolic link to the request log of the ID RSA key for the administrator. The problem is this doesn't work. So what I'll do is I'll go into a PowerShell prompt and I'll try and execute this, and you'll see what happens. All right, so let's do PowerShell. So we're in PowerShell. Now let's do PowerShell execution policy bypass. All right, now let's paste this in here and see what happens. Access is denied. So this is not going to work, right? So I really struggled on what I could do, and I tried to do searches for symbolic links without admin rights, and it just kept pointing back to PowerShell and make link. Now I did see some PowerShell scripts, right, that could be of use in doing this. And I eventually, what I did was I went right to GitHub and went into the GitHub search bar and typed in Windows symbolic links without admin rights. And this is one of the things that popped up, sharp link. So this looks like it's some kind of C# program that is able to create a symbolic link using RPC control. And I'll be damned if I know in detail how it works. But when I looked at this, I read this. It says it uses techniques that was first identified by James Forshaw and implemented in the symbolic link testing tools. Sharp link provides a C# implementation that allows you to create symbolic links directly from PowerShell in an object-oriented fashion. So I clicked on this symbolic link testing tool, and it's Google's Project Zero. And it says this repository was archived. But if you look in here, there's a bunch of tools, and one of them is Create Symlink. So what we're going to do is we are going to download this. Okay? And if we go to that folder, and we extract here, we have this release, and then we have all of the binaries are in here, and here's the one we're interested in, Create Symlink. Now, I even struggled trying to do this because I kept getting this error, and it had to do with, and I'll just bring up the website. I finally figured it out by reading the instructions, ironically. Not really the instructions, but the README that's included. And you can only, right here is what was throwing me off. You can only create symbolic symlinks in directories which are empty. This is a limitation of the processing of junction points. And that was the exact error I was getting. It was saying junction error 145. I'd change something, it would say junction error number 32. And I was like, this is never going to work. But then when I deleted basically everything in that log directory, it worked. Okay, so this was important, and this created a bunch of heartburn for me because, you know, I'm a dude, I don't read instructions most of the time. So if I would have just read this, I would have known, and I could have probably saved myself about an hour of my life. So what we're going to do is we're going to come here, we're going to open a terminal, and I'm going to do an ls because I want to copy this because I don't want to have to type that. Copy. And then I'm going to do a Python HTTP server on 80. And then we're going to go back to our Windows system here. And we're going to do a dir real quick. And we got logs and backup PS1. So what I want to do is I want to get that create symlinks over here. So what I'm going to do is use certutil. Now I don't know if I copied that over here or I'm going to have to, okay, I'm just going to have to type it because I didn't make a copy of that command. So it's certutil. If you've never used certutil, great tool. Doesn't always work, not always available, but works for this purpose. And it's always URL cache file HTTP my web server, which is 192.168.45.159, and then the binary, and then the binary again, because that's what it's going to be called when it's on the system paste clipboard. And we're going to hit enter. All right, so if we do a dir, we have create a symlink here. Now, this is the step that I had to do to finally get this to work. If you miss this step, this will not work. I'm just going to assure you of that. You're going to get all kinds of those junction errors. What you need to do is do this. Copy, paste, and just say yes. Okay. That is gone now. Now, what we want to do is we want to use this create symlink. And I'll explain it. So all I'm doing is using the literal path to this create symlink because obviously backup is not in our path. So here's the binary we're running. It's in the backup directory. And basically, I'm just making a symlink of the IDRSA key here. So when basically what's happening is it's, for lack of a better explanation, it's copying this file when it's actually it's linked to this. So basically it creates a relationship between those two files so that when you act on request.log, you're actually acting on ID RSA. I'm sure you guys know how shortcuts work, but for maybe there's some people out there who don't know. And this is a symbolic link, not a hard link, obviously. So if you delete the symbolic link, you don't delete the original file. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to hit enter. And we have to wait. So this creates the link, but it's only for testing. If you read the full package of those Google tools, it's only for testing. So what happens is it only creates the link for as long as you have this open. If I press enter, the link is broken. This Google Zero project, these tools are for development, and they're not, it's not a way to actually create symlinks on a regular basis. This would be something that developers would use to test. So we need to wait for a minute or two so that script actually runs, okay, and the logs get created. And now when we go into the latest log, it should have the contents of the IDRSA key for the administrator. So I'm just going to pause for a second while I wait. Okay, I'm back. We're going to kill this symbolic link now. You'll see when I press enter, the link's broken now. Okay, and we're going to go into logs, and we're going to do a dir, and it looks like we have a log that looks a whole lot bigger than the logs previous. So what we're going to do is type, and I'll just copy this. And if we hit enter, there's the private key. Here's where my second batch of trouble happened. I copied the key, and I went to a terminal. And actually what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our Kali folder, and we're going to delete this IDRSA key. So we're going to move that to trash. I'm going to open a terminal here. And then what I'm going to do is nano IDRSA, paste clipboard. And then what we're going to do is we're going to Control O to save, Control X to exit. Then we're going to do our typical make it read only, right? Chmod 400 IDRSA. Now, I was very confident. I was like, oh, we're going to SSH now into the box with an administrator shell. And you're going to see what happens. There we go. Load key IDRSA error in libcrypto administrator password. So it's asking for the password. So we're going to hit enter, enter, enter. What you got to do, and this took me forever. I found a website here. I will include a link in the description below. where they give you some suggestions on what you need to do. And honestly, it turned out to be like an errant space in the file. So if we go back and we look at IDRSA and we open it in Mousepad, if I come up here, do you see this space right here? Everywhere else, it goes right to the end, right? You can see it's always at the end, right? If you go up to the top, there's that space. Get rid of the space. Click Save. Oh, cancel. So what we're going to do is I'm going to actually make this read, open a terminal here and make it writable again. Chmod 777 IDRSA. Now we'll go in and edit it. Sorry about that. But the issue is right there, right? So get rid of that space. Make sure there's no space. See, when I put the cursor at the end of the line, it's right there. When I put the cursor at the end, it's right there. That one space was causing an issue. So let's hope that that fixed our issue. Now we'll go back to our terminal. We'll do chmod 400 IDRSA, and then we'll do, I think we have a window open. Yeah, right here. Let's try again and see what happens. Now it worked. I literally spent an hour trying to figure out what was wrong with that key. And it was one space in the first line. So make sure there are no carriage returns, no line feeds, no spaces, no anything. Otherwise, you will get that libcrypto error. That was very frustrating, but I jumped for joy when I was able to figure it out. So as you can see, we are in the administrator folder. So we'll cd desktop. We'll do type proof.txt. And there's the flag. So this machine was a pain in the butt. The way we did it was we ran an mmap scan. We went to the website, which was on 80. We saw this PDF to HTML to PDF software by Pyload, took note of Pyload as a possible username, did some go busting, found a PDF directory, went into the PDF directory. There was actually a PDF that had been generated with the private key in it, copied the private key, used that to create our own private key, which we were able to log in as Pyload. We did some enumeration. The machine's called Symbolic. We found a backup directory that had a backup PS1 script that was running on a regular basis. Struggled mightily to figure out how to take advantage of that, because the thought was to make a symbolic link to the administrator's RSA ID key, and make link didn't work, PowerShell didn't work, nothing worked that required because it required admin rights. Finally found something in GitHub, the Sharp script. I'll show you right here. If we go to GitHub, Sharp link. So kudos to this guy, USDAG, because without this I would have been sunk. And found this symbolic link testing tools in Google Project Zero. Downloaded those, read the actual instructions after not having some success, made sure the directory that I was trying to make the links in was completely empty. Then it worked. Got the key, and then struggled for another hour to figure out there was an errant space in the key, which is not uncommon, I heard, when you copy things from Windows to Linux. So just make sure the key is cleaned up and there are no errant carriage return line feeds or spaces. And that's how we got the root flag and were able to root the machine. So hope you found this video useful. Hopefully you learned something. All the links will be in the description below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, just want to say hi, drop it below. I'd be happy to chat. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.